Hello, my friends. How are you doing? I'm Felipe Hoffa, and I'm live today from Chicago. This is one of my favorite times of the week when I get to meet with my Snowflake friends. Today, Samartha Chandrashekar and Scott Redding. You might have met them earlier on one of our previous episodes. But today, we're going to meet them again because we're going to talk about the definitive guide to managing spend in Snowflake. Scott, Samartha, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Felipe. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. We usually do these things on Tuesdays, but this Tuesday I was in a flight back to San Francisco and now in Chicago. I love traveling, I love meeting people, and ready to do this. And Scott, how are you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, I'm here in Dallas, Texas. So we are in the same time zone, at least Central Time.
Yes. And well, we are the same time zone. I love knowing where all of our friends are. So please comment it. I love being part of the chat. We are live, so we love your question. Mark is in NC, Satish is in J, Anush in K, Lakshmi in MN. I guess that's Minnesota, California, New Jersey, North Carolina. Is Peter saying hi or Hawaii? I don't know. But yeah, so Snowflake released last week the definitive guide to managing spend in Snowflake. Definitive guide are big words, and we're going to discuss them with Samartha and Scott. And I think these are the best guests to discuss this. But let's remind our friends, Samartha, first, and then Scott. Why are you, What's your role at Snowflake and why are you so interested in discussing the definitive guide to managing spend in Snowflake with our friends?
Certainly, I'll go first. Hello, folks. My name is Samartha. Great to be back on Felipe's show again. I am from Snowflake's product management organization, where I manage a team of PMs responsible for compute, cost governance, workload optimization, etc. So this is an area that's very close to me. It is an area where we're constantly making improvements to help customers maximize the value that they're getting out of their Snowflake spend. Now, this definitive guide is a recent idea that came up. Um, Myself and a bunch of others were publishing a large number of blog posts that went into best practices, that went into sort of details around Snowflake internals, that shared a collection of queries that you could run to optimize your spend. We thought it would be valuable to bring it all together while also talking about the FinOps aspect of it, that talks about the people, the process, the technology, and that's what we did. A bunch of us got together, we authored this, and we're excited to talk to you about it as well as share some marquee aspects of this guide today.
I love it. I love how you being a PM shows that Snowflake cares deeply about this. Like you are managing a lot of PMs. There are so many features, and this is so important for customers. And this is the great time for anyone listening to us to make requests directly to the person that's prioritizing how we build all of this. And how about you, Scott?
Yeah, hey, everybody. Scott Redding. I am a senior solutions architect. I've been in Snowflake for almost 4 years now. I work in professional services, so I'm in the weeds with all the customers, trying to optimize their Snowflake spend as much as possible, optimize their warehouses, they'll deliver cool solutions on Snowflake, and just enable their businesses to be more effective and more efficient.
Yes. So this means you are working with customers. You are looking at their bills, you are looking at their Snowflake consumption, and you are helping them reduce their spend and make everything optimize the whole experience.
Yep, day in and day
Yes.
out.
Yes.
That's what we're helping. So reach out to your account executives if you need help with professional services. Can come in and help you optimize as well.
That's awesome. This is a great time to remind people that you were behind this great talk at Summit that's now on YouTube of how Instacart optimized Snowflake cost by 50%. And it's a joy to listen to it and see how deep you go with customers, improving their Snowflake experience and bills.
Yeah,
So
Instacart's a great customer. Been with them for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years now. So
yes, you're really in the weeds. So on one hand, we have PMs. On the other hand, we have working directly with customers as your main purpose. So let's go back to Samartha, let's talk about how do you see this guide. Please guide us through the guide.
Certainly. So this guide, the way we've structured it is, it starts off by really looking at three categories, which also represent the three pillars that we've used to organize our efforts. There is functionality to get visibility into spend, functionality to control spend, and functionality to optimize spend. And of course, there is more than just the technology. There is the people, the process. There are multiple business units involved. There could be business owners involved. There are Snowflake practitioners. There are finance personas. There are end users. There are analysts, etc. So we've tried to ensure that there is content here that is relevant for all of these personas. So, for example, a finance persona or business owner might care about sort of a budget at the level of either an account or a contract, etc., and what the burn rate on that budget is, how you're trending towards a certain target, and so on. While you could have folks that are more in the weeds who are looking at specific units of compute, like virtual warehouses, and looking at utilization of those warehouses and looking for mechanisms to ensure that those warehouses are right sized and well utilized. Similarly, you could have organizations where there are central teams that are managing Snowflake, and then they might have a chargeback or a showback model to downstream teams. So we have content for all of these personas. In addition, we also have placeholders where you can not just get queries, and these are some of the queries that we've authored and shared previously, but you can also there are also pointers to reach out to Snowflake in terms of organizations like our professional services organization, where great folks like Scott work and deliver value for customers, as well as certain trainings and tutorials that you can take. So this in many ways is a compendium of functionality that sort of wraps up sort of all of the content that we have, and is representative of our thinking around how to approach price efficiency and spend efficiency on Snowflake.
Yeah, just looking at the table of content, it seems so well organized. Like, first, let's take some quick actions, then let's learn about visibility features, then the control features, then the optimization features, and everything else that you're mentioning, like what are the next steps once we cover the basics.
Certainly, I think one of the things that we were very mindful of doing here, based on largely feedback from customers, is there's of course the detailed content and the queries and stuff like that. But in addition, we also wanted to ensure that there were low hanging fruits that were easy to action on for someone that might have probably a few hours to look at things. And so we made sure to call that out specifically, and that is in one of the sections of the guide as well.
Nice. And I know you wanted to share your desktop.
Certainly, let me do that.
Yes, just to go deeper into the guide and see your overview of the definitive guide.
Now, if you can see my screen.
There it is. Let's zoom on it. So now we're looking deep into the guide.
Yeah, so we're looking into the guide. Like I said, there is content on people, process, technology, etc. But you also see sort of the broad pillars that we've used to organize some of our product investments, as well as our messaging on this topic. And we've also used that to structure the guide itself, which is visibility, control, and optimization. And on visibility, we talk about sort of the high level view, as well as some of the new capabilities that are out there. And so, let me also do this while talking about the guide. Let me also sort of maybe start switch over to product functionality itself that is out there that can further substantiate how you can use this guide. So, in terms of visibility, again, there is visibility in terms of stuff that you can do by explicitly querying things, and then there's also new improvements that we've landed, some of which are in preview, such as budget, such as our cost management UI, which we announced and demoed at the Snow Day conference that just concluded, etc. So, what you see here is essentially a UI-based view of spend visibility, where you can look at your spend at a high level, at a contract level, and then you can also get to increasing sort of you can go down the funnel from contract to organization to account to warehouse to user role to eventually all the way up to a single job. So in this account, I'm looking at spend, and this is a brand new dashboard that we have. I'm also looking at the most expensive queries, not just based on each query run, but also based on recurrent queries. So one of the things that we recently launched is something that's called a parameterized query hash, which, unlike a query hash, which is just a hash in the SQL text, this is essentially a hash in the query plan itself. And the way we compute this is we scrub out things like date literals, like regular expressions and strings and date ranges and things like that, and then see sort of what is the cost footprint associated with all of the runs of that query. And that's something that we surface. We look at sort of storage costs, and also, most importantly, we also we surface things like insights, where if there are if there are what we consider are cases of low yield spend, like tables that haven't been used for prolonged periods of time, or sort of auto cluster tables that haven't been used for prolonged periods of time, or large tables, etc., we proactively surface that, and this list is only going to grow. And all of this is something that we surface. Again, the queries for these are also available in the guide as pointers to locations where you can go run these queries, but you can also do that from the UI. The guide also goes over this new functionality that's called budgets, that allows you to essentially set spending limits and get alerted based on your Snowflake spend, not just when you hit that threshold, which is the budget at the end of the month, but also based on your current burn rate in terms of your current spend trajectory. So in this case, the budget that I've set is modeled by this dashed line, and anything above that is essentially going to create a notification, that I'll get notified of uh, to to take downstream action. I can also have custom budgets. So again, these are functionalities around visibility and to a certain extent control as well. The guide also goes into lots of queries in terms of how you can right size your compute, how you can ensure you're using storage most optimally, especially as it comes to managing sort of the life cycle of storage artifacts and so on. So I have a few favorite queries from this guide, largely around some low hanging fruits, such as, for example, if you aren't using Snowflake's auto suspend capability, and if you have warehouses that are running that don't have auto suspend enabled, we have queries to flag that, and those are in the guide. I've copied them over into my Snowsite worksheet, and which is what I'm showing you. So we can run these and flag some of them. We can also go ahead and look for warehouses that have egregiously high values for auto suspend timeouts. So again, as a precursor here in Snowflake, when there are no queries running on a specific warehouse, that warehouse can go to sleep. And you're not billed for the time that it is sleeping. You're only billed for the time that it's running. And auto suspend is a property that's actually set enabled by default. So we can go look at the warehouses where that has explicitly been disabled. We can also go look at cases where auto suspend has been enabled, but the auto suspend timeout is at an egregiously high value. And in this case, I've chosen an R as an egregiously high value. And so this test account that I have certainly has lots of warehouses with what we consider are egregiously large auto suspend timeouts, which means that they'll continue to stay running while there is no work that is happening in them, which is a launching point for further investigation and follow up with their respective owners. We also have resource monitors, which essentially are mechanisms to set hard limits on spending on the warehouse itself. So you could set a resource monitor to say something like, if the spend footprint of a certain warehouse crosses a certain threshold, then actually go ahead and suspend it, or behavior, or stipulate behaviors like notify and suspend, etc. So these are, again, all queries that you'll find in the guide. What I've done is, these are some of the most impactful capabilities that the guide covers, so I wanted to quickly show that to you. And look, it so happens that this very account does have warehouses without resource monitor set up, which again is a launching point for optimization activity. Furthermore, we also have queries that look at the amount of bytes spilled, which in many ways is emblematic of memory pressure.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we have is a compute type which is optimized for high memory. We call that a Snowpark optimized warehouse. So if you have workloads that are seeing spilling, and spilling essentially means that Snowflake has to go reach out to outside RAM, which is either the local disk in the virtual machines that comprise the warehouse, or to object storage like S3 on AWS, which is again multiple orders of magnitude slower than fetching from RAM, which impacts performance. And so these are again cases where spilling has occurred, and so this is a trigger, as the guide points out, to go look at a different warehouse type to perhaps unlock better price performance. The important thing to note here is if we're looking at the same warehouse t-shirt size, a Snowpark optimized warehouse is 1.5x more expensive than a standard warehouse. However, if you had to go to the next size standard warehouse, that would be 2 times more expensive. So there could be opportunities in such cases where you could benefit from better price performance from just moving to the same sized Snowpark optimized warehouse as opposed to the next size standard warehouse. And again, the guide goes over this. The guide also goes over a metric that we recently announced that's called warehouse utilization, that actually gives you the utilization on a per cluster level for each warehouse, which in conjunction with warehouse load metrics can be used for very actionable and actually quite profound right sizing decisions. So the guide goes over a lot again. Um,
Yeah.
Along visibility, around control, around optimization. So I'll pause there, hand it over back to Felipe. Yeah,
Yes.
lots more.
I know Scott has some demos to share with us today. But I have a question for Samartha. As you were showing us, like we have these great new visualization features in Snowsite, but we also have these queries that people can run. Like they can take the queries and run them on their own. How's the decision between I'm going to share queries for people to go deeper versus I'm going to surface this on the UI?
Certainly. Look, I think we have a wide array of customers with different skill levels, and based on sort of the type of customer and what they're looking for, one or more of these can be applicable. So, for example, we have customers that build custom dashboards. We have customers that use third-party tools. We have customers that are essentially partners that build tools to visualize Snowflake data for their downstream customers. And then we have customers that would ideally prefer that Snowflake provide a pre-canned experience with all of the right tiles to help understand their spend. So based on this sort of spectrum of customers, one or more of these makes more sense. Also, what we have done is for our own dashboards, the queries that power that, we'll put it up on the internet, and you can see pointers to that on the guide. So if someone likes that, but they're using, say, I'm making this up, let's say they're using Tableau or QuickSight, and they aren't using Snowsight and Snowflake, there's an opportunity for them to take that SQL query and go modify it if necessary, and then go plug it into their favorite BI dashboarding tool.
Great, great. And speaking of running queries and customizing, what demos do you have for us, Scott, today?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go into using cool features in Snowflake to execute things to help you save money on your storage bill, which is somewhat overlooked in some cases. How do you, with infinite storage capabilities, people tend to
Yes.
store their tables forever and never delete them, and it can become a problem. So I'll share my
Go to
screen.
your computer. We have it
All
here.
right, so I'm going to be using our VS Code plugin, by the way, shout out. Snowflake VS Code is amazing for those that don't use it. So I'm going to go in here at the top, and basically what we're going to do at a high level is create a tag called TTL, or time to live. So the scenario is maybe you have some machine learning things that are running and creating a bunch of tables that are input into another model that don't need to stay around for that long. And one thing you would want to do in that is create it as a transient table, so that because you don't need fail safe, it's probably going to be deleted anyways. But even transient tables are taking up storage, so why not just delete them? And what better way to delete them than automatically delete them, so you don't have to remember. So what we do was create a tag called TTL, in this case, time to live for tables specified in milliseconds. then you would create a table here, and this special tagging here, you can create a table with a tag. So as you create the table from your pipelines, tag it with a value, in this case milliseconds, in this case pretty low, 60,000 milliseconds or 1 minute. So this table should only last for a minute. And then I inserted some data into that table already previously before we started, using a faker function, by the way, which is pretty cool. And so I'll run this query, show you there's data, that table exists. And then I also created another table here called inference input, and just, put in Iron Man as the table with the username, why not? And then we're going to go through and create a function. In this case, this is a Python function. Quite a few articles on using JavaScript functions or Python functions. So we're basically going to create a function called drop table, get TTL value, get table attributes, and then the main function called delete expired tables, right? So delete expired tables is basically going to run through, get the table attributions, the attributes, so get the table name, schema name, all that good stuff, and then start for all the tables you find in the tables. We're going to go through, loop through, basically check for the tag, and see if that thing has a tag or not, and if that tag is basically greater than or equal to the deleted date. So if so, then we're going to drop the table and append that table to an array that we return back. So all that's been created. Prior to this, the other piece of this, once you have this Python store procedure built, then you want to create a task. So in this case, have a task that runs on a warehouse. In this case, I'm settling it for every 1 minute. And really, in theory, you'd want to not run this, but like once a day or even once a week, even, depending on your scenario. And then your quick alter task resume. So you want to resume this task, or you can actually execute the task directly. So once this task is running, now in the next minute or so, this task would run and it would delete the table. So just so you can see some of the information that's stored on a tag, we're tagging, querying the tag references table, an information schema. So you can see the two tables, customer table and ML reference input, the tag name, which is TTL, and its value, which was 60,000 milliseconds. And then you can also see this is the function that's used to call that. For those of you who haven't seen system get tag, you can run it and it'll pull back the tag. So that's how you grab the table names, start looping through those table names, running this query to get the tag value, and then compare that tag value against the time to live.
That's cool.
So this query here is shows you your task history. So if this task is run yet, so you can see my task is scheduled to run here in a few minutes, in less than a minute or so. And then once it runs, it should be successful. It is executing now. And now it's succeeded.
Cool.
So now basically I can show all the tables, and there are no tables. They're gone.
Cool. That was so much in one script. Can we go back to the top just to ask you some questions? So something that's very interesting here is in Snowflake you can have tags, but tags are not only labels. You can assign values to that label. So the TTL would be 60,000, wherever you define it.
Yep.
That's really cool. And then when you create the table, you just give it a tag and you give a value to the tag that you can use later. Super cool.
Yep.
Let's keep going. Then you were able to create these fake utils. Admin utils is something that you define for yourself or part of Snowflake?
Yeah, this is a Python function using the Python faker libraries to create some fake data.
Yeah, but you created this database admin utils.
Yeah, yes.
Nice. Super cool. And suddenly you have a table full of new data. And then you have the Python store procedure, which goes over anything like you're doing a search for
Yeah,
that. What the search? It searches for any table that has the TTL tag and looks at the value if it's more or less.
yeah, it'll basically grabs all the table names out of a specific schema you're looking for. Then it loops through each table and runs this selectum system get tag. So it'll pull back the value, the TTL value of that tag. And then the next thing it would do was drop table. So it would drop the table that's returned back that matches the criteria of whether or not the delete date is less than the create date plus the TTL value.
Nice. And then instead of just executing this store procedure, you wanted to run every minute, every day, where just to show that we can schedule these tasks.
Yep.
And then we got it to run. We saw the log. I'm not sure I understand the question from Kamalesh. What if the upsert into that table runs over a minute?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is a minute is not something you should set your TTL to. Probably a day or at least a couple hours, depending on basically what your requirement is. Usually, probably a day, even 30 days. Sometimes, in some cases, is probably a better approach. This was just for the demo to quickly expire the time to live, so you can see that it deletes it.
Exactly. And we could give different, a TTL could be, I mean, we could have a similar behavior defined not by for the whole table or by row. If rows have a timestamp, the tag sets when do we delete rows, and we just change the logic in Python, I guess.
Yeah, you could.
Yes. And Kondal has a question. First, this is great, he says. And how much compute did this script consume?
Oh, but I would assume pennies. This is
Yeah.
just an extra small warehouse.
Yeah, you're telling the script go into the extra small. It's just looking at metadata, deleting whatever tables it needs to delete.
Yep.
Nice. And those
Yeah,
are
actually, in
Samartha.
addition to what Scott showed, I'll also remind folks that look, in Snowflake we have these table types. There is permanent, temporary, transient, etc.
Yes.
And we also have capabilities in Snowflake for time travel, where you can go back in time to go look at previous copies of data. There's fail-safe, etc. And so, especially while using some of these capabilities, it's important to know that for what use cases these are needed, for what use cases they aren't needed, and that can also help inform the right table type. And in fact, the definitive guide itself has a dedicated section on exactly this.
Yes. Do I choose transient table, temp tables, normal table? How much time travel do we want for each? Um, this is really cool. I don't know how many more questions we're getting. Not many questions today. We are about time, but I don't like closing the live without wondering if there's anything else, Scott, you had prepared. You want to tell people?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think some of the easiest wins on optimization I've seen across customers is really just looking at your warehouse sizes and determining if you're running too big of a warehouse usually, right? Downsizing your warehouses is probably your best, easiest button you have. Consolidating warehouses as you think about your architecture from a solutions architect's perspective. You shouldn't have a ton of warehouses. We customers tend to use warehouses like almost a warehouse per person or a warehouse per department, which can be useful in some cases. But if you want to focus on cost and efficiency, consolidating your warehouses and using those warehouses efficiently as much as possible across teams even is the best approach to efficiently using your Snowflake spend.
Yes. So
Yeah, and,
consolidate
and to add to
warehouses.
what Scott,
Samartha.
sorry to interrupt. Yeah, no, to add to what Scott said, if you're using shared warehouses across multiple business units, it is also important to realize sort of chargeback and showback models. And one
Yes.
of the capabilities that we've pre-announced is the ability to get a per query cost, or rather per query cost attribution of the warehouse's spend. So if everyone's sending all of their work to the same shared warehouse, and if you want some sense of, hey, who's sort of responsible for more of the spend, so that you can keep them accountable, either formally or informally. These are capabilities that will help, which will, in the fullness of time, also get integrated with budgets and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yes.
as you plug for my talk on Instacart, that's key to what we did, was having cost at the query level, using query tags, using JSON objects in your query tag to be able to easily, not only using like query parameterized hash like Samartha talked about that's now in query history, but also using query tags to group queries together as well for budgeting and costs, chargeback and showbacks as well. It's good to get prepared for when cost per query comes out in query history. Start thinking about how query tags, you can utilize query tags to be able to use that number to more efficiently track your spend per department and efficiency.
Yes. By the way, I have two questions that were waiting until closing time. That I do that too. One is retention settings of the data and then deleting like this. Would there be a conflicting scenario? Basically, can we protect deletes? Um, I think I think this is talking about how. Let me show the question here. I think this is talking about how we just delete tables in this script, but that's logic that we're defining.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is an admin. You would probably only do this on certain schemas, like one of my use cases, like an ML. If you have an ML team with a sandbox where they constantly are creating tables to run for inference, for run for through models, that those, I mean, they're just recreating the table. The next day, they're just going to recreate a brand new version of it anyways. It's not needed to stick around. And I've seen cases where, we're all data hoarders at heart, I feel like. So everybody just keeps them around. This is a way for an administrator, or maybe a Snowflake, one of your Snowflake administrators overall, to make sure that certain schemas, like sandbox style schemas, get deleted quickly, and aren't
Yeah.
costing a
This,
lot of money.
this is a tool for anyone that's very conscious and it wants to make sure that when they create the table will get deleted. And
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
given.
we've also seen cases. We've also seen cases where the same methodology has been used, where you can essentially set some sort of a TTL value on rows of the table,
Yes.
where folks have implemented things where, say, if a row is older than a certain amount of sort of threshold time, then you archive it by moving it elsewhere, or you delete it even, etc. But again, these are things that you would have to enforce as policies by writing the script for it, and thus we'd follow what's in there.
Yeah. And Kamalesh wants to know too, where's your sample script? People, when they see code, they would love to download your code. Are you publishing this? How?
There are definitely some published out there already. I can send
So,
some links out.
yeah,
You
while
can
Scott
search
is
Time
looking
to
at those
Live.
links,
Mhm.
Yeah, while Scott is looking up those links, you'll also notice that the definitive guide itself has pointers to lots and lots of queries, in addition to the stuff in the Snowflake Labs GitHub, as well as the pointers that Scott will just share.
Yes, let me show back the guide here, the definitive guide ready for people to download, share. We should, I saw someone sharing the link straight to the PDF, so thank you for that. Kondo shared it, but yes, we have a landing page where you can download the definitive guide, and it has all this content. And we want to share the queries, we want to share the code, and we want to see what people come up with. Yes, and Indita has a question that, let me do the last one here. Deleting the row will be contradicting with the warehouse functionality. I'm not sure what she means, but I would say it's all about the logic that the data owner wants, and to make sure that we don't keep data more than what they want. Like, that's their definition. Uh, any last comments, Samartha, before we go today? How should people prepare for our next live?
Now, just want to re-emphasize again that we at Snowflake are committed to helping customers optimize their spend, and hopefully this guide will serve as a useful tool, because it is sort of a well thought out compendium of sort of our recommendations, our best practices, our organization of the space. So yeah, interested in learning about everyone's feedback.
Yes, we love feedback. This question we're going to keep the answer a mystery because Sean Wilk wants to know how can we get one of those amazing sweatshirts, Scott? Or do you have an answer for Sean?
Snow store.
Snow store, yes, just go to the snow store. We have a lot of cool swag that people can get with the Snowflake logo, including that amazing sweatshirt. And with
Yeah,
that,
I know that's where I'll be headed because I'm the odd one out here with Felipe and Scott both sporting Snowflake branded merchandise.
oh yes, I love wearing my branded. Uh, it's a cool logo, but we should get you something for the next live, Samartha.
Certainly.
And with that, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on what's left of Twitter. We want to get your questions. We're going to go through the videos. This is being shared immediately on YouTube and LinkedIn if you want to share it with your friends. And with that, I think it's time for my thank you, Scott, for the link to the Snowflake store shop. And with that, it's time for our bear to dance us off. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.